The federal government had told Governor Barnett, we're coming in and we're going to maintain order and we're going to register Meredith, they would have had my complete respect and cooperation. They didn't do that. And by the same token, the governor was so obsessed with the idea of maintaining our way of life that that was the ultimate objective. And with those two points of view, and with the two political leaders trying to make each other look as good as they could, the situation just got out of hand.
The situation in Oxford was becoming very tense as hundreds of people streamed into the area to defend Ole Miss and the Southern way of life.
We had reports throughout, not merely the students, but of all kinds of people pouring in cars in order to prevent Meredith from being admitted to Ole Miss. One has to remember also that that was the squirrel hunting season in Mississippi, so there were literally hundreds, thousands of guns. Every pickup truck had a couple of guns in it, and so that the situation was really very dangerous.
Saturday, September 29th. The Ole Miss campus was deserted as the students flocked to Jackson for the football game against Kentucky. The halftime speaker was Governor Ross Barnett.
I love Mississippi. I love her people. I'm a customer. I love and I respect our heritage.
The next day, Sunday, September 30th. Finally, President Kennedy decided the time had come to enroll James Meredith at Ole Miss. He sent several hundred U.S. Marshals to the campus to prepare, and he announced he'd make a special speech to the state that night.
Sunday evening, when I flew down in a government plane to the airstrip of the University of Mississippi, and we had marshals already down there. We had about 400 or 500 marshals sworn in as from the prison guards, from the Border Patrol, from the U.S. Marshal Service, from any other place we could find reasonably trained law enforcement officers. And they were themselves an irritant to the students who were returning from a football weekend. And we had no place to sort of hide the marshals. We were around the Lyceum building, which was the center of the campus, and unbeknownst to us, a sort of a tradition and a place of great honor.
Students came, and of course, they saw the marshals. I know I got angry when I saw the marshals. It seemed a betrayal. It made me mad. You know, why are these people here? Well, we haven't done anything. And people have behaved themselves, and, you know, what is going on? And I caught myself really with some of these feelings.
After the marshals had secured their positions, James Meredith was flown into Oxford Airport and driven to a secret location at Ole Miss. The crowds didn't know where he was, but they knew he was on campus. And at 8 o'clock, just as the president went on the air, Ole Miss turned into a battlefield. Very few people heard the president's words.
Americans are free and sure to disagree with the law, but not to disobey it. For in a government of laws and not of men, no man, however prominent or powerful, and no mob, however unruly or boisterous, is entitled to defy a court of law. The eyes of the nation and all the world are upon you and upon all of us.
The marshals were ordered not to use guns against the rioters, who were shooting and throwing Molotov cocktails. And the rioters were targeting the media, smashing cameras and attacking reporters.
There was one freshman girl that had been this little flower of Southern gentility when I had met her. And she came up to me, and her face was absolutely contorted, and I almost didn't recognize her. And she was absolutely furious because she had picked up a brick and thrown it at a marshal, and it had only hit him in the head and scratched him, and she had not put his eye out.
All I need is to start it all over, start it all over, yeah. All I want is to start it over, start it all over, yeah. All I need.
Well, you see, we got to get order up there, and that's what we thought we were going to have.
President, please, why don't you give an order up there to remove Mayor?
How can I remove him, Governor, when there's a riot in the street and he may step out of that building and something happen to him? I can't remove him under those conditions.
People are wiring me and calling me saying, well, you've given up. I said, I had to say, no, I'm not giving up any fight.
Yeah, but we don't
I never give up. I have courage and faith, and we'll win this fight, you understand? That's just the Mississippi people.
I understand, but I don't think anybody, even in Mississippi or any place else, wants a lot of people killed.
Oh, no.
That's what, Governor, that's the most important thing.
I'll issue any statement any time about peace and violence.
While the president and the governor argued, the riot worsened. Finally, Katzenbach asked the White House for troops. It took hours for them to arrive, and during the night, 35 marshals were shot, and 2 people, a French journalist and an Oxford worker, were killed. But by dawn, the army had restored order.
Of course the president's going to win in the end. He's got the whole armed forces of the United States. He can call in the Air Force. He can bring Navy ships up the Mississippi River. He can call out the Army as he did. He can drop parachuters in. I suppose he could shoot missiles at Oxford, Mississippi. So he's going to win at the end.
I recall driving to the campus, and I guess when I got to the circle was when I really saw the impact of the riot the previous evening. I reported to my office. As I recall it, there weren't very many of the staff there. Many of them were too afraid to come to the campus on Monday. And later, James Meredith came to my private office, and I accommodated the registration there.
It wasn't a cause for laughter and champagne, but it was a cause for some relief, and it was the fact that was over with. I mean, in a way, Oxford had become the symbol of massive resistance and the final gasp of the Civil War, if you want to look at it that way. And it was over. It had ended.
Sir, there's been a great deal of turmoil and conflict 2 people have been killed. Do you have any feelings of guilt? Have you given that any second thoughts?
I'm very sorry that anyone had to get hurt or killed. But of course, I think that's an unfair question to me. I don't believe any of you believe that I had anything to do with that.
How are you getting along in school, sir?
Just fine, just fine.
How are the students that have been talking to? Has there been any reaction?
No, just acting like students, I suppose.
Is this a kind of a lonely life for you, despite all these people around you?
I've been living a lonely life a long time.
It was a lonely victory for James Meredith, but it was a victory for him and the country. The Constitution had held and been reaffirmed in a major crisis. Thousands of black people felt the victory and saw James Meredith as an example to follow, a symbol, like the Little Rock Nine, of their own power to move the nation.
Sorry for the sins I've committed and all my shortcomings, all my backsliding. You've always stayed faithful. You've always stayed there in the corner. You've always been the one that I could turn to. I'm just struggling. It seems the pressure's of life is slowly cutting through me like a knife, leaving me second guessing, confused and stressing. Not resting, but steady counting blessings, concealing a Smith and Wesson, cause these haters always testing. I'll leave them resting in peace, hoping police pull over my caprice and book me with no chance of release. But that's wishful thinking, so the 9 leave them sinking. Just one side effect of excessive drinking, see? I don't wanna hurt nobody, I got bigger fish to fry like rappers that rip Illuminati. I scheme and fight for my dreams to the extreme and transform into a street marine with Jim Beam in my bloodstream. All haters are dead, boot printing your bloodshed, up close and personal, screwing infrared. Watch that your homies fled, and all confusion spread. Stop breathing my air, you living but you brain dead. My block's been raped, duct tape, no exit, no escape. Got one foot on the gas, the other's on the brakes. Nervous, notice how my hand shakes. I only trust my shadow cause we make the same mistakes. So dope, yeah, I fell for the bait. A risk I chose to take, an enemy of the state now. Locked up with cold-blooded snakes. If I die before I wake, I pray my Lord my soul to take. Everclear, I used to drink it straight, pistol grip on my lap, driving a 6'8". Straight to hell, valet devil at the gate. Busted the U-turn fast, my soul screamed, wait! Repent, Jehovah, I'm sorry for the sins I committed, and prevent a fatal accident. Drop to the ground. Jesus turned my whole life around. I've been off the negative merry-go-round 18 years now. You ever see an angel stumbling, tumbling to the earth expeditiously, wings crumbling, good and bad spirits rumbling? Just the thought of it is humbling, fumbling with emotions like mortal men. Skies open, you hoping for mercy. Hit the ground fatigued, naked and thirsty. Once flew with kings, but traded in your wings the curiosity to do those earthly things, oblivious and ignorant to what pain it brings. Crying, laid out in the streets with broken wings, then realize your life was jeopardized. Time to disguise those wings with some clothes that's oversized. Not a word heard, you're like a winded bird. Your dialect from a different realm, you can't say your word. Your heart full of fear, it's clear you die here. The faster you run, your wings start to disappear.
Our brother Martin Luther King exhausted a means of nonviolence with his life being taken by some racists. What is being done to us is what we hate, and what happened to Martin Luther King is what we hate. You darn right we respect nonviolence. But to sit and watch ourselves be slaughtered like our brother, we must defend ourselves, as Malcolm X said, by any means necessary.
At this point, I question the whole purpose of the Black Panther Party. In my thinking, they were necessary. It was a shock treatment for white America to see black men running around with guns, just like black men had saw white men running around with guns. Yeah, that was a shock treatment. It was good in that extent, but it got a lot of black people hurt.
There was no joke about what was going on, but we believed with our hearts that we should defend ourselves. And there were so many that did do that.
By 1968, the Black Panther Party was part of an increasingly volatile political scene. That summer, the National Democratic Convention in Chicago was disrupted by violent clashes between demonstrators and police.
I've never seen anything as horrible in my whole life. Look at Dr. Keller. We shall.
The war in Vietnam polarized the nation, and the political and racial upheaval at home soon became an issue in the presidential campaign.
This is a nation of laws, and as Abraham Lincoln has said, no one is above the law, no one is below the law, and we're going to enforce the law, and Americans should remember that if we're going to have law.
I think it's fair to say that as the Nixon administration came into office, as we came into office in 1969, there certainly was a strong perception of radicalization.
In Chicago and in other cities, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover expanded surveillance of organizations in the black community, especially the Black Panther Party. Directives issued by FBI headquarters a few weeks after the elections called for, quote, imaginative and hard-hitting counterintelligence measures aimed at crippling the Black Panther Party, unquote. On Chicago's west side, the Panthers had just opened their first office in Illinois.
Well, the thing that I really loved about the Black Panthers is that they refused to be ignored. It was very easy to ignore black people back then because everybody figured, well, it's just a lot of talk, and they're not going to do anything. They'll just go on and on and on, moaning and groaning about how terrible everything is, and they, of course, at the best, they just might get involved in some acts of nonviolence, but that's about it. And they just kind of, business as usual. You couldn't have business as usual with the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were definitely going to be heard.
So we always say the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pigs. The people are going to have to stand up against the pigs. That's what the Panthers are doing. That's what the Panthers are doing all over the world.
Fred Hampton, a former NAACP youth organizer, became at age 20 chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. The Panthers program drew mixed reactions in Chicago's black community.
Many black people initially was very, very afraid of the Black Panther Party.
I understood where they were trying to go politically and felt that they had to change things. And when I talk about fear, I was afraid they weren't going to do it right. And I was always trying to cool them out and say, that's not the right way to go. They were too direct.
You could tell that this was a movement that was very meaningful to them. And none of them was suicidal, so it wasn't like they were out there trying to figure out a way to get killed. But they did honestly and truly believe in power to the people. I mean, that was their slogan.
Here you found some brothers and sisters saying, first, look, the United States Constitution guarantees us the right to bear arms and to protect ourselves. And we understand that we need protection in the black community. And it's our responsibility to protect black women and black children, not the police, because the police is not here to serve and protect us, only to continue to enslave us. It is our responsibility to see to it that our people have a decent place to live, decent food to eat, and quality health care, not the system. So that frightened a lot of people. I mean, they didn't think that it could happen. They didn't think that it was right.
The bear whoop of hip-hop. My quest don't stop. Standing on your skeleton skulls, that's my backdrop. Lightning flashing, ocean waves crashing. I'm harassing with a tongue lasher for all your trespassing. You get shot up for saying my name in passing. Body snatch, there'll be no casket. Head buried, body parts wrapped in plastic. Fingers spreaded over 4 freeways in traffic. It's a shame, your death is my classic. You get the point, I'm being sarcastic. Family asking what happened to getting your...
People learn by example. I don't think anybody has an argument with that. I think that when Huey P. Newton said that people learn basically by observation and participation, I think that everybody caught on to that. So what we're saying very simply is that if they learn by observation and participation, then we need to do more acting than we need to do writing. And I think the Black Panther Party is doing that. That we didn't talk about a Breakfast for Children program, we've got one.
Come on in, little brother. Come on in, little sister. Y'all can sit down and get something to eat.
Sister, brother.
Y'all kick off y'all's coat. Sit down, man. Everybody gonna eat. Y'all can eat as much as y'all want.
The new Breakfast for Children program soon attracted the attention of the FBI. Claiming the program served to indoctrinate children, the Bureau directed field offices to, quote, formulate specific counterintelligence techniques to disrupt this nefarious activity, unquote. The FBI stepped up its efforts to recruit blacks to infiltrate the Black Panther Party.
My recruitment by the FBI was very efficient, very simple, really. I'd stolen a car and went joyriding over the state limit, and they had a potential case against me, and I was looking for an opportunity to work it off. And a couple of months later, that opportunity came when FBI agent Roy Mitchell asked me to go down to the local office of the Black Panther Party and try to gain membership.
I think everyone that was in the Black Panther Party
kind of understood it was a given that we would have wiretaps, that we would be followed, that we would be harassed, we'd be locked up, that we would even be beaten by the police.
In the winter of 1969, law enforcement agencies launched efforts to undermine an attempted coalition between the Black Panther Party and the Blackstone Rangers, a Chicago gang.
The Panthers were pursuing an ideology that said we need to take these young minds, this young energy, and turn it into part of our movement in terms of black liberation and the rest of it. And I saw a very purposeful, intentional effort on the part of the police department to keep that head from hooking up to that body. It was like, you know, do not let this thing become a part of what could ultimately be a political movement, because that's exactly what it was.
FBI agents wrote an anonymous letter to Jeff Fort, the leader of the Blackstone Rangers, warning Fort that the Panthers have, quote, a hit out for you, unquote. The Bureau knew that the information was false, but believed that Fort might take retaliatory action against the Panthers. Meanwhile, city officials announced a crackdown on gangs.
Would you say that street gangs can do no good? Is that what you would say?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think that the energy of youth properly directed could be a tremendous betterment, could lead to a tremendous betterment of our city and the individuals' progress themselves. I'm complaining about the misdirection. I'm complaining about the fact that 620 out of 693 shooting victims are black themselves. And I think that's a tragedy. That is where black genocide is occurring here.
The Chicago police expanded their anti-gang campaign to include the Black Panther Party. In late May, Fred Hampton was sent to prison. He had been convicted on a charge of stealing $71 worth of ice cream bars.
We tried to develop negative information to discredit him, just like we did everybody else. We, meaning the FBI, I tried to come up with signs of him doing drugs or something, and never could. He was clean. He was dedicated. I've had private conversations with him. We got along pretty well.
While Fred Hampton was in prison, a police raid on the Panther office turned into a shootout. 5 policemen and 3 Panthers were wounded.
They did it. Once they got the brothers down, they went back up there and the fire started.
Nobody was up there except the police when the fire started.
Frank, you want to come get a picture there, too? Check that door, man.
It's so hard to be positive in the city that I live, where it's all take and no give. Where kids smoke Newports, kill and do bids, have tattoo eyelids. Highest inflation, a lost generation. Even if you don't participate, you're guilty by association. Teens with guns, a deadly combination. Lack of communication ends up in confrontation. Then loved ones dies, endless cries that last a lifetime. Through the early demise, bloodshot eyes, looking for those guys that did it. Revenge is futile. The truth is.
On the morning of August 3rd, 1920, 46-year-old Jacob Mills shined his boots, polished his sword, and headed to Harlem to take part in one of the biggest parades in New York's history.
As a young boy, to see my father in the parade was one of the greatest things in the world. I would be right there to see him put on his tunic, and I loved to see that sword that he carried. It really made me feel very proud of him.
Mills was one of 100,000 black people marching under the red, black, and green flag of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. The world had never seen anything like it. It was all the work of one man, Marcus Garvey.
Every window that you looked at, people's heads were out to see the Marcus Garvey parade. Most of them wanted to see Marcus Garvey. And he was very well decorated, his hats and the feathers. but he drove always in his automobile, sitting back.
At the age of 34, Garvey claimed millions of followers worldwide. His controversial goal, to create an independent black nation, made him one of the most powerful people in America and one of the most hated. The federal government targeted him as a threat to national security. Rival black leaders denounced him as a lunatic and a traitor to the race. But Garvey may have been his own worst enemy.
He wasn't one to take advice from others kindly. He made his own decisions, and he would rise or fall by the decisions that he made, because he was a supreme egotist.
Volatile and secretive, yet charismatic and visionary, Marcus Garvey changed forever the way black Americans looked at themselves and the world.
He started something that became bigger than Garvey himself. He, more than any other figure in the 20th century, symbolizes the turning of the perception of black people into something positive. Garvey's father was a mason, a professional mason. And among the things that he did was to create tombs for people in the St. Anne's Bay graveyard. He took Garvey with him to the graveyard one day, and they were digging this grave, and his father had Garvey go down inside the grave, but then he pulled the ladder up and left the child in the bottom of the grave. Garvey said that he cried out and his father wouldn't let him get back up out of the grave. He wanted to teach him a lesson.
Alone in the grave, young Marcus Garvey learned that he could rely on no one but himself. It was a lesson he would carry for the rest of his life. Marcus Garvey was born in August of 1887 in St. Anne's Bay, a small town on the northern coast of Jamaica. His father, who had been born a slave, withdrew from the family for days at a time and insisted his wife and 2 children address him at all times as Mr. Garvey.
My grandfather was a very stubborn man who had to have his way, who he was quite retiring to. He used to, the strange thing about him, he used to have his own little apartment off the main house where they lived. And he would be by himself there, reading a lot. Now, if you look at it, the thing, Marcus Garvey was like that himself too. He liked to be by himself.
Marcus obviously inherited many of his characteristics. Marcus Garvey's father was repressed in many ways, a frustrated person, a person who could find no way out and seemed to have internalized much of the feeling that the world was against him.
Garvey's mother raised crops and, like many women of her time, cooked for a white family to support her own. But Sarah Jane Richards wanted more for her only surviving son than a life of common labor in the banana fields.
Garvey's mother had tremendous influence upon him, and she had great hopes for him. She wanted, in fact, to call him Moses, And she thought that he was going to do great things. That source of love, that someone, his mother in particular, loved him, helped to create that extraordinary self-confidence that Garvey had.
As a boy, Garvey imagined himself delivering speeches to adoring crowds. He spent hours reading, and even bet his friends they couldn't pick a single word from the dictionary that he didn't know.
The young Garvey had ambition. He wanted to get out of St. Anne's Bay. Later he said he dreamt of becoming the first gentleman in the world. And it seemed as if he early on developed this interest in a kind of dramatic, epic story of himself in which he would play a leading part.
But Garvey's grand ambitions were tempered by reality. As children, blacks and whites mixed easily in his community. One of his closest friends was a white neighbor, Joyce Reary. But as they became teenagers, her father put an end to the friendship.
At the age of 14, she was sent away to England and told never to speak to him because he was a nigger. And he said that's the first time that he heard and became aware of this idea of being black and what it meant. He felt shut out. He felt that he was excluded and made to feel that he was not good enough. And the rest of his life was really an attempt to prove that he was just as good as anyone else in the world.
Under the colonial education system, Garvey was forced to leave school at the age of 14. He became a printer's apprentice and quickly earned the status of master printer. In the print shop, he learned the power of controlling the written word and would soon publish his first newspaper, Garvey's Watchman. In 1910, 23-year-old Marcus Garvey set out on a journey through Central America. Supporting himself as a journalist and laborer, Garvey saw black workers harvesting plantations, loading ships, and building the Panama Canal. They were the power behind the economy, but in their isolation from each other, black people were powerless.
Only 6 years old, with a spark in her eye. Shy and innocent, with ambitions to fly. Always seemed happy, but at night she would cry. Trying to understand why did her parents both die. Head on collision, bus driver was high. I told her it would be okay, I hated to lie. Tears run down her face into the air dry. Just staring at the sun.
didn't come here on our free will. Our people was told. The thief was the devil, children, cause it really was cold. To steal a song for people, you know he really was bold. The truth about the whole thing, jury never been told. Even stole that name, which was better than gold. But I saw it all in someone's head on the road. They're trying to steal the music, children, that we let get old. Trying to learn the wisdom that their mind can't hold. Time is up, we had enough, now we got control. They don't need this rhythm cause it's muscle lost soul. Listen, you got to get that starchin' iron out of your hat. Wigs and straightening combs ain't gonna get you nowhere. I know I'm stepping on some folks' toes, I just don't care. And the thing you ought to know, it's got to be fair.
This is no picnic in Oakland. It is a political rally organized by the Black Panthers. On this Sunday in August 1968, their purpose is to have one of their leaders, Huey Newton, released from jail. When they sing Free Huey. When they dance, they clench their fists.
We got to free Huey! Get with me! We got to free Huey! Got to free Huey! Get with it, get it! Got to free Huey! Everybody, out! Got to free Huey! Oh! We got to free Huey! Oh! We got to free Huey!
The panther was chosen as their symbol. It is a beautiful black animal which never attacks, but defends itself ferociously.
My name is Bill Brent. I'm a captain in the Black Panther Party, associated with the central headquarters of the Black Panther Party, located in Oakland, California.
I'm a grown man with a grown plan. Got my own record label, destiny is in my own hands. Selling music from New York to Japan. Songs hotter than the sands in Afghanistan. I'm spinning dinars in Iran. 10 albums on iTunes, catch me if you can. Disaster's the invisible man. Accomplish more than you'll do in 3 lifespans. A bona fide businessman. If you wanna take me out, you better off drowning Aquaman. Turning down shows on Letterman. I'm not an industry artist, cut the heart out the middleman. Meet the real life Iron Man. You still releasing albums, but you just gambling. Your brain I'm scrambling, and if I catch you in the streets, I'ma start manhandling. I'm picking a lot, coming through blasting.